what are the main patterns that are going to go down this time of year, the main depth zones, and just in practicing maybe your first day doing that, where they should be, and then your first couple hours, your first 6 hours, but don't get locked in on where they should be. But knowing where they should be is definitely a big deal, because you need a starting place in your mind going to a tournament. And then after that, you can kind of expand and be like, okay, they're not doing this. How do I need to adjust? And my tough tournaments, I don't do that, because this year we had a tournament on Lake Travis, which is in Texas, and this lake is a deep, clear lake. Our tournament was there in May. I'm thinking before I go in, this is going to be a top water tournament. The water's super clear, post spawn. This is what I'm thinking I'm going to do to catch them. And I get there and I fish a lot of post spawn stuff. I get a couple bites, but not enough. And I kind of keep pushing it and pushing it. Well, the last day of practice, which was the second day, I was there, like the last hour of practice, I go in a pocket and I see a couple fish on beds. And that was really a bummer to me, because I realized I basically wasted my whole practice looking for these ghost post-spawn fish when there really wasn't any. I didn't really pay attention to the weather, which is number two. The weather for that May and that spring was super cold. Texas went through a all-time cold spring, I guess, and I really didn't realize that. I didn't pay attention to that, and that's really that was a big mistake for me, because there were so many fish on the bank, and it took me 2 full days of practice in the very end of that practice period to kind of figure that out, that hey man, there's still a lot of fish on the bank. I could just go down the bank, and especially in MLF where we're not just targeting 5 fish, we got to catch a lot of numbers of fish, and I wasn't getting those a lot of numbers of bites or big fish. But I'd learned that late in practice, but it was kind of too late, because you really have to, it's hard to find those areas during the tournament. And I eventually did find them during the tournament and barely missed the cut, but did not pay attention to the weather. And that's just weather, leading up to your tournament, or in that situation, that was months prior. And that can really dictate, where the fish are going to be, especially in that post-spawn, May time. There's been several times out here on Guntersville where we may have a cold spring, and you think, man, May the 15th, these fish are supposed to be on the ledges. Well, guess what? The water's 68 degrees. We've had a really cold April. I've gone out and looked and looked and looked, and there's nothing out there. And that's just simply the fish that, have not made that push because of the weather. And that happens a lot in fishing where, they're not where they should be. And that's definitely something to keep in mind. Water conditions, if I'm going to a new lake, I really thought about this before I did the seminar, but when I go to a new lake, the first couple things, if you don't take anything from this seminar, the first few things I'm going to do is, number one, I'm going to look in the water. I'm going to look in the water. I'm going to see what the water clarity is. That's probably the number one biggest thing, that if you don't have a clue anything what you're doing, or you're not confident at all, you need to just look in the water, and you need to say, is this, am I going to be fishing dirty water in this area? Is it going to be super clear? This is going to at least eliminate a lot of things in your mind on what you need to do. and the baits you need to throw.
And the information Bass University provides isn't your basic run-of-the-mill fishing video. This is specific information from A to Z to help you learn, get to the water, and become a better angler quickly.